We're recording now, so
right.
We're already doing whatever it is we're doing.
What do we want to say about the walking episode then?
I guess just that we did it and here it is.
Okay.
No, we're done.
Very efficient. I like it. So hello everyone. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of me and Ian to this very special episode of What a Lot of Things.
Very special.
There will be more than two things, immediately breaking our self-imposed limit of things, which we often break anyway. So the What a Lot of Things podcast started as... You look like you was about to say something.
I was just... I'd gone off in my head on a little safari about the difference between less and fewer. And I was wondering if we talked about enough things.
You're saying we should talk about fewer things or less things?
Yeah, exactly. Are we talking about more things, or that doesn't work with the greater number of them, does it? You can have more teaspoons and more sugar, and it's both the same. It's only less and fewer that are different. All right, I apologise for everything I just said. Let's start yet again, and
no, we can keep that in. So the What a Lot of Things podcast started with me and Ian going for walks.
It did.
On Ilkley Moor.
Yes.
And gradually we thought, hey, wouldn't it be a good idea if we actually started recording these things?
As you do.
As you do. So most of these walks would end up finishing off in the pub as well.
Yes.
So as a true tribute to our beginnings, thought, let's combine walking and recording with the wonder of technology.
It's just as well that I'd coincidentally just purchased some wireless microphones with lavalier microphones on them that are suitable for the task.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise it would have been really hard.
So here it is, an episode with
more rambling than usual.
More rambling than usual. I won't get into the less, fewer, more things.
Don't get into that.
Let's not go back there.
It's a rabbit hole that nobody wants to go down.
So on a nice summer's day, we took a nice stroll onto Ilkley Moor. I'm
going to try and edit out all of my heavy breathing as I struggle up the hill. So thank me for that, dear listener.
I'm an editor's dream because I don't have any heavy breathing while I walk up the hill.
No, he's in his head, he's running up the hill.
So enjoy, everyone.
Enjoy. So here we are outside.
And the stove fireplace studio are upon us.
So oh dear, more pigeon defences.
They like to discard the defences, don't they? Yeah, I like all those pictures of birds just like wandering around on top of the things that are supposed to defend against them. Oh, death by massive tractor.
It's take your life in your hands coming out of the office and recording.
Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it? Wow, look at that! It's an amazing machine.
That's no small tractor.
No. Gwen's dad gets really angry about British farmers having tractors because apparently the farms aren't big enough for them. Only Australian farms are big enough.
No, I think that's just Jeremy Clarkson's tractor.
Oh yeah, his Lamborghini.
Yes.
Tractor.
I must say, that's a guilty pleasure of mine, is watching Clarkson's farm.
Yeah.
Not all that guilty, really.
I think a lot of people have Clarkson as a guilty pleasure, don't they?
The thing is, he is funny.
So am I direct?
Well...
Or have you got a particular route?
I have no particular route, except that I feel as though this walk's documented audio feed is going to have a lot of puffing and blowing from me as we go up a hill.
Well, it's very difficult to get on the moor without at least
going up a hill.
One fairly steep ascent.
Or a drive.
Come on, let's do it.
That's not my proposal.
Let's do it for real. Let's do the walk.
Well, I said shit got real, so I suppose I'm obliged now, aren't I?
I went up on the moor yesterday, actually.
So the technical experiment here is that we've got lavalier microphones on with big bushy sort of windshield things.
And beards.
Yes. So there may be some free of charge extra beard ASMR going on.
Relaxing sounds.
We're going along here.
Yeah, we can go along here.
It's called Regent Road for those who are being forced to listen to this context-free conversation. So we've got 2 lavalier microphones attached to Rode Wireless Pro transmitters.
Got to add the Pro on the end.
Otherwise, people might think we're frivolous amateurs.
Yeah, you wouldn't buy it if it was called an amateur, would you?
No.
Hobbyist.
The wireless amateur. There is a wireless Go, and I think a wireless Me, but I feel like the wireless Pro has the edge.
Me.
Is it a wireless Me? I may have made that up. Marketing departments are fickle creatures.
Yeah, like large action models, right?
Or agents, as we call them. So it is definitely very much so the good thing about the Pro is that it comes with these lavalier microphones, so you can actually use the transmitters that have built-in microphones, but I think these are actually a bit better. And then in my pocket I've got my phone with the receiver plugged into it that's making a recording using a piece of software called Ferrite Recording Studio, which is actually the software I use to edit the podcast.
It's been a mainstay of the Ian Smith podcast.
It has.
Technology stack.
Although I don't actually use it on my phone because editing a podcast on a phone would be insane. That's not.
You don't hate yourself that much.
That's not a complete. Not completely ruled out, but on the whole, I think the iPad larger screen is better.
Right.
So we're going across a road.
An extremely blind corner.
Extremely blind corner beset by Range Rovers bent on running us down.
And we're going to go through the
Millennium
Memorial Garden. I often run to here. I do my cool down here.
Feels as though a reverential silence would probably be appropriate. There's some monuments here to.
Well, there's also people here having their lunch.
Casualties of both world wars.
And it is a good place to eat your lunch as well.
It is, yes. Nice and quiet.
There we go, reverential silence.
Yes, we're now leaving through the gate at the other side. I feel like some sort of explanation is required of the surroundings to give a bit of context. So the most pro thing about so I'm going to get to the end of this story if it kills me. The most pro thing about the Wireless Pro is that it came with all the lavalier microphones and windshields and stuff as part of the package.
Yeah.
So you didn't immediately get it and then think, oh no,
I need to spend.
Now I have to buy all these other things as well.
I need to spend $200 on accessories now.
Yes. So there are plenty of batteries involved that could all potentially run out at various different times. But hopefully.
Well, if one of our transmitters runs out, then we just get a monologue from one of us, don't we?
Yeah, with some distant mumbling from the other one.
So, it won't be all bad. Indistinguishable from the podcast, really.
Yes, yeah. It'll be very similar. So yes, it'll be an interesting experiment. So my phone's battery could run out. The receiver battery
10% when we left.
could run out. And the transmitter batteries can run out. There's one further piece of nerdery.
All right.
So the transmitters that we have attached to us with the lavalier microphones attached to them, the transmitters are also recording the output of our walk. And so if the phone runs out of battery and the transmitter runs out of battery, we would still be fine because we'd be able to retrieve the audio from the receivers.
So, genuine redundancy built in.
Yes. So,
disaster recovery possible.
Possible.
Although yet to be tested.
Yeah.
As usual with disaster recovery, to be fair.
We won't be doing that test.
No. It's just a nice it's a nice theoretical exercise, disaster recovery.
The thing is, the receivers just record all the time when they're out of the case. So there'll be quite a lot of searching for what exact files.
Well,
when did we start this recording?
True, yeah.
And then there'll be lots of recordings of us doing tests, which might not be all that compelling, I'm going to say. So I just come back from holiday.
Ah yes, the fjords.
The fjords. I almost couldn't have fjorded it.
No,
Sorry, I still don't understand why I find that so amusing.
well, it is quite a good joke. And also it's kind of topical as well, because like Scandinavian countries are, when you first start buying things there, you're like, wow.
I can barely afford this.
Yeah. So, you know, it does work on quite a few levels.
Yes, it does.
Because I think it is just a little bit pricier than we're used to. Although not too much now.
Yeah, now we're managing to get up to their prices, but without their standard of living. How did
we
that
get
happen?
the best of both worlds.
Yeah, or
alternatively,
something from both worlds.
Yeah.
So I recorded a bit of a video diary while I was on this holiday because I wanted to try a couple of nerdy things out, and one of them was these devices. So I recorded the audio from these devices.
Right.
But the other thing is that Final Cut Pro, which is Apple's Pro video editing software, is available on the iPad. And it costs £4 a month or £5 a month or something.
Okay.
I hear everybody groan at the
Add it
thought
to
of
the subscription
stack. Teetering about to collapse subscription stack. But for this, one of the things it has is this ability to use up to 4 iPhones as remote cameras and just record directly into Final Cut from the remote cameras.
4?
Yes. Or 3 plus the iPad if you
3
want.
plus the iPad, yeah.
So that means that you can have this kind of multi-camera recording setup.
So can you use just like phones as cameras then?
Well,
iPhones, yeah. And I realise that I've excluded myself from the...
Yeah, which was, a bit thoughtless, Ash, to be honest.
Well...
Go back and buy an iPhone 15 or something that we can actually use.
I've still got my iPhone 7.
Well, I wonder if that might... I don't know
how good... I do know how good the camera is. It's not very...
Not very is the answer. But there's a new video recording app called Final Cut Camera that you can download onto an iPhone, and
right, okay.
It's got lots of video recording options that aren't available in the regular camera app, and it's free, so that's quite nice.
Oh, nice. So you don't even need the Pro subscription?
No, you only need the Pro subscription for the editing software on the iPad. Yeah, it's a pretty fine thing. But the good thing about having having multiple camera feeds is that you can cheat. So the thing that probably drives you mad, it only drives me mad, is the thing where people are doing little cuts and they're recording themselves talking to a camera, and they do a little cut so everything jumps a bit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of distracting.
But if you cut away to another camera...
If you cut away to another camera, you can edit out things you said.
Yeah.
Or
still
ums and ums that you uttered, and be able to cut to the other camera. So when we edit the podcast, obviously we can just cut out audio stuff very, very easily.
Yeah.
But when you have video as well, it's really helpful to have multiple cameras.
So you could just do the edit, And then where you find that there's those continuity, you can just switch to another camera for that bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that looks a lot better than cutting,
Yeah.
than just cutting little chunks out and having everybody in the shot leaping.
So while you were on holiday, there was a small global incident and outage. I don't know if you noticed while you were talking about all the things you cannot afford.
Somebody was sending me a message. In fact, one of our most attentive listeners who often sends feedback on the podcast, Mark, was texting me on Signal saying, how smug was I to be a Mac user?
Yeah.
And I noticed some former testing colleagues of mine producing some marketing materials about how their testing should be taking place.
Right, okay. Yes, I did notice one particular test architect from that particular organisation, which I won't name, talking about someone should have signed it off. And I was like, well, as long as someone's signing it off, then that will, that will solve all of you testing problems, won't it?
You'll have the conversation about, is it working? Yes. Okay then.
So yeah, I must admit, there's been some extremely terrible takes about testing off the back of the CrowdStrike incident.
But you can imagine that there are some process fixes that could have been done that could have enabled that to not happen.
Yeah, but they all involve more testing, generally, not better testing. So most of the things that people have suggested just involve doing more testing across an even larger range of devices.
Let's imagine that you're the chief quality engineer.
Chief quality engineer. Am I well paid for this position?
CrowdStrike. I mean, I think you should pick a job title.
Extremely well paid for this position.
There's
as in, it's impossible to
to bribe you
to achieve that.
So let's just imagine for a minute that you get to choose a job title that isn't specifically calculated to irritate you, like that one, and you were in charge of preventing catastrophes like the one we just saw.
Chief catastrophe preventer.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That's better than chief quality engineer.
What have you put in place to try and prevent technology catastrophes like that one?
Well, aside from just testing it harder, and testing it more,
with more coercion of testers.
More coercion of testers. I would find the tester who was supposed to have done it and thoroughly blame them. No. So
I feel as though they're not going to hire you for the unimaginably huge sum of money if that's your approach, because they've already done that.
I don't know. I think most executives are quite keen on that approach.
I know,
it aligns with their own approach.
They've already done it.
They would be like, this guy is one of ours. So I think one of the things that's always really interesting
is... up here?
Yeah. We'll go up Hebersgill Drive.
For those of you who aren't actually here with us now, Hebersgill Drive is here.
So one of the things that's always interesting from a testing point of view is how you just continuously repeat the same tests over and over again until, there's basically a disaster where you then have to change your approach a little bit. So I guess one of the things that I probably would do is say, well, how often do we honestly change what we test and how we test it based on feedback from the real world?
Oh.
So rather than just what we think is for the best, or no one really wants to test Windows 10 anymore because it's boring, and unfortunately it's a fact of life that CrowdStrike has a lot of customers who are still on very, very old operating systems.
Do you think they're using SQL Server 7?
Maybe. Somewhere deep in there, I would imagine. So I guess there's two things that I would do. I would say, right, okay, well, are we honestly testing the things that matter? Or are we just doing the things that are easiest? in order to ship the product.
But presumably,
And also, how good is our metrics for telling us what to test? What information are we getting back from like real customer usage that we're actually putting into how we test things?
yeah, but the disaster that happened. I mean, how robust a test strategy do you need to not brick half the Windows machines in the world?
Well, I just think that you need one that actually reacts to changing conditions in the world, rather than just one that stays the same for all time.
No, I don't at all disagree with that.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me that this is a fairly visible fault. I mean, it's hard to imagine they installed it on very many machines.
Yeah.
Because if they had,
Then maybe they would
perhaps
have
it
seen
just
it.
works on their machine.
Yeah, I'm not sure that testing really works like that. To be honest,
I don't know,
I've
so-
seen lots of obvious things missed. Well, it's only because I guess by design they only become obvious after the fact.
Yeah, 2020 vision and all the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's lots of obvious faults in software, but they're only obvious once they've been unearthed.
Yes.
And it's your testing approach and strategy is the thing that unearths them. So if your testing approach and strategy is static, not fed by customer usage, then maybe what is immediately obvious after the fact is not obvious to how you test, because you've just kept them the same.
But is there the thing is, it's just so huge a problem.
Yeah.
It's so obvious a problem.
Yeah, but testing is the canary in the coal mine for those types of problems, isn't it?
Well,
So-
that's what you want it to be, I suppose.
Well, yeah. Well, the canary that doesn't die in the coal mine. The canary that just keeps chirping at you.
Yes, you find out
Until
it's
it goes
not actually
live.
a real
And
canary.
then, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's more like it's a golden eagle.
This is a fake canary.
So, but the amount of places that, so basically a lot of the takes were testing is the problem here, when it usually isn't, is it? Let's be honest. There's way bigger things going on before, like that particular fault was released into production, which were probably a bigger impact than testing. So you're already on shaky ground if what you're saying is we're going to rely on testing to find these things, or we're going to rely on testing to allow us to keep creating the conditions for these things to happen. And then phew, testing caught it again, because it's not always going to happen like that. So I'd be interested to see like what how honest they are from CrowdStrike point of view in their post-mortem about the conditions in which this problem was created. Because, as I've said to 1 billion product people when they've talked about outages and have said that the technology teams need to go and have a look at themselves, I've always said, no, we all contributed to this. Every time you said, can we do this a bit quicker? And every single time a technology person reacted to that and did something that they wouldn't normally do. So we're all creating the conditions for these problems. Not, it's a testing problem. Because anyone who's been around in testing for any decent length of time would say, yes, there's probably things we could do in testing. But the reality is that, like any decent post-mortem, you'd look at the chain of events that led to it. And maybe, because CrowdStrike updates quite often, because obviously the threat landscape updates incredibly often. And maybe their processes, in terms of quality, weren't quite designed to meet that level of cadence. Yeah, maybe there was some kind of discrepancy.
Yeah.
Which led to a natural gap in what they might test. And so there's a few things that I would probably explore there. Because if you're testing across multiple operating systems, that sounds slow to me. Even if it's automated, it sounds slow.
Yeah.
And if you're updating on a regular basis, that might be faster than your testing feedback loop. So I'd be interested in what those cadences look like and whether or not they actually honestly match up to each other. Because I would doubt, and I would certainly love to know the answer to that question.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know from awful experience what forms of testing are fast and what forms of testing are slow. And testing on multiple operating systems is slow.
Almost by inevitable.
Yep. But if it's part of like
definition.
your business model, then if your business needs it to keep going, then that is your cadence, not the amount of times the threat landscape changes, because that you need to go with whatever your slowest cadence is. So if your bottleneck is around there, then you need to start to work on it. So we've just wandered in to the Jurassic beauty of Heber's Gill.
We have, which means that Ash is going to have to talk even more now, because basically I'm just going to be puffing and blowing as we go up the steep incline that's represented by this, it has to be said, almost Garden of Eden-like spot.
I mean, they have made it a bit more friendly in terms of steepness.
Oh, good.
They
Is there a cable car?
Not that friendly. It's still pretty hostile. But yeah, so this is a very long climb.
Brilliant.
Fairly steep.
Fairly steep.
With a very, very beautiful long series of waterfalls around it.
Which you may or may not be able to hear in the background.
Yeah. So, and they've constructed a set of little bridges over the waterfalls as well. So it's very beautiful. This is the not so secret entry to the moor, I think.
Not so secret.
Not so secret, but less used, I would say,
Yes.
than probably White Wells.
You can't drive up it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it does put a lot of people off. But I have run up and down this thing on various occasions. It's actually the down that scares me more. The down is fairly nerve-wracking.
Yes.
So,
At speed, I can see it would be.
yeah, so I choose to run up it more than down it, I think. It's probably fair.
Yes.
So, but it is very beautiful.
Yes,
It
it
does
is.
something nice for your brain.
It does.
It makes you feel like this is what the world used to look like,
Makes you breathe heavily.
which is also a good thing. It's like you should be in some discomfort while exercising, but not total discomfort.
My heart rate is up to 133 BPM,
I won't say mine.
which is probably quite clearly audible on the microphone that's attached to it, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. So yeah, I think there's a lot to come out of CrowdStrike. I'll tell you one thing I did enjoy about it was initially it was called the Microsoft outage, which I can imagine within Microsoft they worked quite hard to dispel this this fallacy, because it was nothing to do with Microsoft really.
There's a quite interesting nuance about that, because Apple are quite smug, for example, because they don't have any real security providers. So in the 2000s, you couldn't run Windows and not have third-party security software.
Sure.
I don't know if that's still
Yeah, that's very true actually.
still the case, but I remember there was a bit of an outcry. Maybe it was Windows Vista, that kind of era, where they were going to close off access to kernel space code,
Right. Yeah.
which would have put the security companies would have taken away their ability to deliver their software. And so they all clamoured about how Microsoft were inviting a security problem, because if Microsoft's Windows security failed, then it would be a worldwide catastrophe.
Yeah.
Whereas if McAfee fails or one of the other ones, let's just say CrowdStrike,
For example.
then that only affects their customers.
Yeah.
And I think people are worried that Microsoft might take this opportunity to say, well, actually, this code is dangerous.
Yeah.
And look at this outage which has been caused by this third party. Maybe we made a mistake giving kernel space access to these developers.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Apple generally wouldn't do that, would they?
Well, Apple, I don't think they do now.
So, at the very least, if there is an outage, they know where it's come from, or they know, like, its origins, don't they? They know where to look for responsibilities.
I think people are more relaxed about Apple platforms in general in that area, because they never had the level of attack that Windows had. Yeah. Although it certainly isn't zero, is it?
And they don't tend to wheel out entire airports on.
It really is, yeah.
If you want to stop me, you can. By the way.
Ash kindly there offering me a break.
I'm
red-faced and sweating, struggling up the hill.
See, I don't think of these things.
No.
Because I'm just like, right, well, let's just keep
you're
going.
Walking, so
yeah.
There's no possibility that this will be tiring for you.
But
I like the little dinosaurs. They're little plastic dinosaurs that have been introduced into the route up here for children, I guess, to seek out.
Spot. So I guess this adds to the cadence problem as well. So you've got CrowdStrike updating themselves for the threat landscape. You've got trying to test across a multitude of devices and operating systems, if indeed they do that. And you've got, obviously, operating system providers updating themselves. So you've got this constantly shifting set of cadences which are all different.
Yes.
And so you've got to try and find, such as it is, the testing sweet spot of those in order to be able to say, well, okay, this is probably good to go. Someone will sign it off, as certain testing consultancies have it.
So, but is it? Sorry, the thing I still can't quite get my head around is that testing is something that can have an almost arbitrary level of complexity in it.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where you can do as much or little as you want.
Yeah.
But this problem seemed to affect pretty much every Windows machine with CrowdStrike on it.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit confused about how even the most rudimentary testing strategy could miss such a thing.
I guess it sounds like I guess the simplest answer might be they just didn't test it. So, because this is one of the other testing.
They must have worked on someone's machine.
But I don't know that.
But
I don't know if they honestly tested it because it's
surely
So there's a few things, right?
They ran it. Even if there was no testing at all, someone must have run it.
So do you think that their developers develop software on Windows 10 machines? Absolutely not. I don't know this, but I can pretty much guarantee.
You think they're developing on a Mac?
Yes, I would imagine so.
Probably, you're right.
So basically, like you've got. So companies often have these problems as well, don't they? Where they lack diversity in their testing, as in. So all developers build stuff on a Mac. They've all got the latest iPhones and Android phones.
Yes.
And someone says, "Can you have a look at this on Windows?" And everyone's like, "It's your turn."
Yeah.
But there's something in there because like most of the world, seemingly, still runs on Windows machines.
Yes,
yeah?
That's true.
So whereas as developers, in a lot of occasions, we're designed where our preferences are not to go towards that world. Obviously, some still inhabit that world, but I would, if someone said CrowdStrike's devs, they they develop on a combination of Macs and maybe like roll your own Linux boxes,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't be surprised.
No, that's true. I wouldn't either. And furthermore, it might have been a data update.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's a few things there. It might not have ever been run at all before it went out, which is because either it's hard or no one wants to do it, or, you know, Jane the tester was the only one with a Windows 10 VM set up, but she was off, you know. So, and everyone was like, well, what's the worst that could happen?
Well, the moral of the story is that testers aren't allowed holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only possible.
Yeah. So, which is why you kind of, these all things always go deeper than testing, don't they?
Yeah, and there's another side of this, I suppose, which is that these large companies always look very professional from the outside.
Yeah.
But actually, it's hard to know whether all the people inside are running around with their hair on fire, totally under-resourced, unable to do much, apart from the very basic rolling out features.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, and then what was the pressure like from other stakeholders?
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Normally other stakeholders say, no, you're going too fast, take it easy.
so, and also there's kind of trade-offs as well, isn't there? Because say if CrowdStrike updated their app for the latest sort of threats that they perceive in the cybersecurity world, and then, you know, they delay it for extra testing, which would be a miracle.
Yeah.
And then one of these threats becomes a reality. So it's like, well,
Why didn't you protect us?
Yeah, exactly. So that could be bad too. So there was one particularly interesting take, which was this chap wrote a blog about how programmers should be held accountable like engineers, like civil engineers.
Yes.
But obviously lots of people pointed out that...
Professionalism.
Yeah. But lots of people pointed out that, you know, you should, if you're going to have that, then you will need some form of accreditation.
Which does exist.
And a body. But I mean like a serious body, not a...
I think the BCS is a serious body.
There's no consequences from the BCS though, is there?
No.
Okay. You go down. Sorry, won't be a minute.
It's all right.
Hello.
No worries. No, you come on.
Yeah,
of
no.
course.
Boots on.
I'm grateful for the rest, frankly.
Fall on. No one wants that.
Yeah, some of this is quite...
I'm from flat. I'm really
It flattens out.
So am I, but you get used to it.
okay.
So yeah, there's no consequences from like the BCS, is there? So yes, I agree that there are bodies, but you know, you don't need to be in the BCS to get a job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that's kind of what I was thinking about when I said professionalism.
Yeah.
In the sense that civil engineers.
Oh, creaky gate at the top of Heber's Gill.
So civil engineers are obliged to be certified by their professional body,
Yeah.
at least here in Britain, and they can't practice if they're not.
No.
And doctors the same, and other engineers. So you're right, toothless trade bodies don't really solve the professionalism problem, although they give an opportunity for people who want to do that.
Hello.
Good
You're right.
morning still. Oh no, it's afternoon. It's a good thing I'm wearing a very small and unobtrusive watch then, isn't it? Otherwise I wouldn't know what the time was. It says 35:33 on it, which is not the time.
See, I thought that was quite an interesting take, but I think it was probably like symptomatic of the amount of hot takes about what had actually happened.
Yeah, the Microsoft.
Yeah. So, and all programmers should be immediately locked in to, you know, every programmer needs to be in a professional body, and you can't get a job without it. It's like, trust me, there are some organisations who would really, really quite enjoy that, I think.
I think, but I think there's something to it, but I suppose like with all kinds of engineering, there are some safety critical important things,
Yeah,
and there's some other things that may be less so.
yeah,
And also, that can't just happen. It would have to be an iterative process that the industry decided to do.
yeah,
And that whoever was driving that process would need to make sure that everyone's on board with it, including the victims of it.
And I guess the other angle is that, so why was it released, as an all-in-one? Why would you ever do that? And if true, which we don't know, but if that is what happened, it does suggest some naivety.
But there's a tension there, isn't there? Because if you're installing an update that requires a reboot, an unattended reboot, then you don't want to do that 5 times for individual fixes. You want to do it in one go.
Yeah,
Another trade-off in this world of trade-offs.
yeah. But I think you probably could find a friendly company to try these things with, or a controlled environment of some description.
There's a little bird.
If you wanted it, you could make it, I think.
A little bird running along in front of us, thinking if they run in the same direction we're walking, then they'll somehow get away without needing to bother flying.
Hello. Hiya.
Hi. So now we've got to one of my favourite Ilkley places, because I really love this reservoir.
Oh, yeah.
Panorama Reservoir, it's called. One of my favourite pictures I took here.
I was at the Occupation Lane Reservoir yesterday.
Where's that?
So it's down near Ilkley Moor.
Oh, right.
Ilkley Moor's a bit more bleak, because I think,
No pun intended.
yeah, but I think they, I don't know, there's still hides and huts up there for shooting. So I think it's kept in a slightly different state now to Ilkley Moor. Ilkley Moor is regaining some of its ruggedness. There was also, I spotted an article about one of the original co-authors of the Agile Manifesto was bemoaning the Agile industrial complex, saying this isn't what I intended. I always enjoy, people use the industrial complex quite a lot, don't they? They just put like
2 things that I don't like.
Whatever the thing that you don't like,
And the other thing that you don't like.
and call it a complex.
Yes, yes.
Say, well, this well-known, well-defined entity is the problem.
In fact, might there be military industrial complex gate
Yeah,
if there was a scandal about it?
yeah, absolutely.
These are American things which are quite entertaining, so
Yeah.
we will allow them into the British version of the language.
Yeah. So, so I quite enjoyed that as well. Because I don't think he was saying anything particularly new. He was just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that Safe, Dad, and Les have appeared based on what we said on that day versus what we look at now. It's not quite what we meant."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
well,
That's too agile. There's not enough control. Why don't we just put controls around it and then we can do it?
but I guess it's been a long time since the Agile Manifesto, hasn't it?
And when you give something to a community, you must expect not to recognise it in a few years' time.
Keep it pure. It's like, basically, then that gives you carte blanche to say to everyone, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Only
Yes.
we know what we meant on that day.
We, the Agile Guild of Agile people.
Yeah. And it's like, well, will you tell us what you meant? No, that's because you don't understand.
We'll
if I have to tell you, that means you don't understand.
We'll certify you in it if you pay us a tremendous amount of money.
So, yeah, I did find that one quite interesting. It was quite a wistful look back, to be honest. It was like, yeah. But like I say, once you free these things into the public domain, that's where the weird stuff starts to happen, isn't it? And turn it into a movement rather than just a set of ideas from a workshop. To be fair though, for a set of ideas from a workshop, it's been fairly profound, the change that it's
Yes.
that it's created. So I don't think they should be too down on themselves.
Many things are called agile now that were never, no one thought to call them that
Yeah.
20 years ago.
I try not to be too cynical about such
You're
things.
right. I am being
Yeah.
too cynical
Yeah. But
for humour.
I think that there's room for cynicism, and there's room for celebrating the change that actually came about. My favourite thing is always like, there'll be like a bunch of there'll be like a bunch of should we say older developers who were like, well, we were doing that before it was cool. We were doing RUP and other things that have strange names. Well, we did Arrow, and it's like, I don't know what that is, you know what I mean? I don't know if that exists, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, so I don't know if all that's true, and I don't know if, or maybe it is, and all those things, all those experiences were put together in the manifesto. But I don't know, it does seem to have become, there's definitely like a joyless aspect to it.
Yes.
Where more people say what agile isn't than what it is, or give positive examples of what it is. I'm a big fan of like a positive example of a thing.
Yes.
Because I think it helps.
As opposed to hating on pull requests.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because like, there's lots of people like in the testing world who will say, what you're doing is not testing.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, okay, fair enough. So basically you're just saying that, you know, whatever strategy that we've employed isn't testing, and that's bad. It's like, well, is it? And
what are its outcomes?
yeah, exactly. So
you don't have to do testing, you just have to have good outcomes.
yeah, absolutely. So I don't know, I think it's just nice to, when if you are going to engage with the way that someone is doing something, and it's something different to what you expect, then you need to, well, listen and then come at it with some good examples of what you think good would look like.
Yes.
Rather than just saying, well, that's not testing, is it?
If it rains, I'm scuppered. I didn't bring my hat.
Ian has a long history of unpreparedness.
No, there was like one time.
So I have sturdy trail shoes, hat, I have waterproofs in my bag, I've brought water with me. I am the very picture of preparedness.
And I'm heavy enough already.
And Ian said, make sure you put a shirt on so we can attach the microphones to
And
the
you
lapel.
did.
And I did.
Are you not benefiting from that now?
I am. So basically I did everything that Ian said, but Ian did none of the things that he said. So I guess it's just the classic, well, do as I say.
You see, now we've said, oh, we might not edit this. Ash just feels like he can say anything
Yeah, exactly.
with impunity.
The gloves are off, as
But
they
I can
say.
edit it. Oh, yes.
No editing. Hashtag no editing.
Hashtag no
Do you remember
editing.
the hashtag no testing, no agile, no
Quality.
no estimates, no quality?
No hope.
Well, we've already got no quality nailed, so
That seems to be quite easy to do.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, although I'm not on X anymore, so I don't know if on Mastodon.
Because you've moved to Mastodon now, haven't you?
I've been thinking about it.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Is my slow campaign having an effect, or are
Yeah,
you
I
thinking
think
about
it
it for
is. I
entirely
think it is.
independent reasons?
I think you've started to sufficiently like gather my interest with the constant. I mean, I'm only human, you know. If I'm subject to the same laws of propaganda as everyone else, someone mentions something enough, then eventually it lodges in there, doesn't
Mastodon, Mastodon, friendly neighbourhood Mastodon.
it? Yeah,
I've now run out of inspiration for that.
yeah. So maybe I need to get onto Mastodon because I
Oh,
don't know if they do no things, no testing, no agile, no estimates.
But no, you're a leader, Ash. You're the point in your career where your leadership of amongst the testing community will be able to be solidified by your introducing these things.
Yeah, I must admit, I went down to Brighton last week to speak at an
You
event.
did. I was going to ask you
I
about
did.
that,
I did,
but
and
I was in Norway.
and it would have been nice to have something other than LinkedIn to say thanks everybody,
Yes.
but I didn't. So, and I figured by the time I set it all up, well, it probably wouldn't take that long, to be fair. Not like you have to fill in, well, I don't know. I'm making assumptions. I assume I don't have to fill in a multi-page form to join Mastodon.
Well, you don't really
On the
join
server.
Mastodon per se.
Yeah,
you
you
join
join
a server. I'm sure that you could find a server where you'd have to fill in a giant form. You also get servers that just run in people's living. Some people have their own server with their own domain name.
It's federated, you know.
Federated.
Someone has told me that before.
Have they?
Yes, they have.
I'm very pleased to hear that you've fallen in with such wise and educated people.
Wise and venerable crowd.
Venerable is true.
So the event in Brighton,
Yes.
so it was really good. It was a Ministry of Test one. I do like a workshop, which is a combination of stuff from testability adventures over the years.
Yes.
Mostly just like very short form questions. I do like a version of the Joel test, which is the
You'll
Joel
have to
Spolsky.
elaborate on that.
So Joel Spolsky did a 12 question test to find out like how well you're building software.
Oh, I'm going to have to do this myself now, aren't I?
There's like things like, can you make a build in one step? Do you have a quiet environment for programmers to do work? And various other questions. Do you have a bug tracking database? Various other things.
Well, this is sounding all right, actually. Maybe I'd be all right.
Yeah. So, but they're all yes or no questions, which is interesting because it's just like a curious. It's actually genuinely hard to come up with a question which is yes or no.
Yes.
Because most people are like, well, I mean, obviously there is nuance in there because it's like, well, what do you mean by bug tracking database? So it could be.
What do you mean by bug tracking database?
Well, it could be Jira or it could be a spreadsheet. You know, one is better than the other, but one is significantly more expensive than the other. So, you know, it's like, well, betterness is arguable as well.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, but it's a nice thing for teams to do together, I think, to say, you know, to honestly answer these questions. So like one of the questions in the testability one is, do developers do exploratory testing? And the answer is generally no. I mean, that's not meant in like a disparaging way, because they do other forms of testing as well.
One hopes.
Yeah, exactly.
At least they get to say it works on my machine.
Yeah. So, but it's just like, well, in high testability environments, developers are more interested in testing because it's not like you have to spend 3 days getting the test data ready to run this one test. Like most developers I know, if you say, well, can you help me with this test? They'll be like, and then you tell them what you're about to do, they'll be like, well, I would do, but you know, I've got like a dentist appointment or something. I'm just going to go and have multiple root canals.
I'd rather have root canal surgery than help you with this.
So, whereas if it's easy to test, they're like, yeah, sure, I'll give you a hand. So, questions like that are just kind of designed to sort of trigger that thinking. And then in the workshop, it gets a bit more involved. So it looks at Rob Meany's model for the 10 Ps of testability, which would have always been better as the 10 Ts of testability. But he wanted Ps. Ps it was.
Sometimes we all need Ps.
Yeah. So, and then we do that exercise in the form of like a Spotify health check.
Oh, right.
So you have like green, amber and red for each of the areas to say, hey, things are great, no immediate concerns, or things are really terrible, we need to work on this.
Yeah.
And then do like a testability career retrospective where you look at all the roles you've had over your career. Or not all of them maybe, because some people have had a lot.
A headlong career.
Yeah, and then say, so basically what we generally do is pick 4 roles, an early one, a middle, an early one and a couple of middle ones and a later one, and see how testability has changed over the course of your career. So like my first testing job, the product people were in London, testers were in Leeds, developers were in somewhere else, and all communication was done via tickets on hand rolled, and they didn't even buy a request tracking piece of software. They actually wrote their own. So that was always broken as well.
What's quite funny is there's lots of YouTube videos of people quickly implementing using various technologies, things like little Trellos.
Yeah.
And you sort of, when you look at something like that and you think, wow, did that in an hour. They did that in an hour, so how hard can it be?
Well, yeah.
Anyway,
hard
yes.
Indeed.
Turns out Jiro's got some more features.
Yeah, yeah. And then the final part is just looking at some models for improving testability. So both at like the team level. So you've got one called, it's called like my ability to test, our ability to test, and the testability. Whereas the testability is the how testable the system is. Then you've got our testability, which is the team, and then you've got my testability, which is the tester. Because often, because one of the interesting things about testability, something that's really easy for me to test might be really hard for someone else to test.
Yes.
So if my ability to test...
So, sorry, can I just understand that a bit? Your ability to test because of your skills,
Yes.
or because of the resources available
Skills, domain knowledge, you know. So say if I pick up a, say if I'm, if I know Node really well, it's in a domain that I know really well, and it's with a set of tools that I know really well, I'll be able to test something, a system, which it might be hard to test in itself, the system, but I'll be able to test it to a good standard because of my ability to test.
Right.
Whereas someone who doesn't have those three things will really, really struggle to test it, because it's not just about the actual system itself, it's about the people who are around it. And then,
Yeah.
but the problem
sure.
is if my ability to test is is outsized, then the team then relies on you to test things. Because they're just like, well, you know, he knows what he's doing. And I've tripped over this quite a few times in my career.
That's the end of holidays for you.
Yeah, exactly. But then, like, often there's like a learned helplessness when it comes to testing as well.
Before you go on holiday tomorrow,
Yeah, can you just test
can you
the
just
next?
test this week's worth of testing?
Can you test the next 2 weeks worth of
And
stuff?
that's made acceptable by the use of the word just.
Yeah,
Can you merely, simply, and without undue effort?
yeah. The event itself was good because there was only, I think there's 12 of us. So it was more of a discussion than a, you know, something particularly like me just broadcasting.
Yes.
So
So you were in a room with.
yeah, I mean it was standard like summertime meet-up,
Okay.
as in lots of people are on holiday and
Oh look, a seat. I think we should avail ourselves of that. Then we can gaze down upon the spectacular
the
view.
beauty of.
We've arrived at White Wells. We're going down these steps.
I was going to go to the town.
Okay.
We can go down the steps if you wish.
No.
It's just a different set of steps.
I'm feeling that we're on the homeward stretch now, though. I feel as though if it turned out we were still on the outward stretch, I would be a bit. I would kind of feel as though
question?
it'd be nice to
No, I figured.
adjust our trajectory accordingly.
Yeah. So usually I do, the run is the greatest hits of Ilkley Moor. So you do Heber's Gill, White Wells, and then to the Cow and Calf.
What about the 12 Apostles, though?
Oh, that's not part of the greatest hits.
No, that is definitely a greatest hit.
Well, you've got to decide. You know, I go for the top three. Plus, it doesn't really work as a loop either.
No.
Or a very large loop it would
I feel like the shape of a walk or a run is an important thing now that we see them
that's
represented
true,
on maps.
actually. We've discussed this before, haven't we? That your disappointment if there's a if we walk down a path and then suddenly it's like that's not the path and we have to turn back. You're like, well, surely we can sweep around in some way.
Yes, it's only another 7 miles on top of the previous distance, but at least we're in good shape.
Which is the main thing.
That is the most important thing.
So we're walking past, this is the little tarn, isn't it?
Yes.
On the right.
I was about to call it the lower tarn, but it's actually higher than the regular tarn, so I think people call it the old tarn, do they?
I think so, yeah.
It's the thing that used to be called the tarn before that tarn was
Before the new tarn.
the new tarn was was created by the Victorians, I believe.
So,
Or at least it was domesticated by them.
so we often say this, but we're very lucky to live here,
We are.
to have sites such as this on the doorstep. It's pretty incredible.
And you're never short of a fern.
No, definitely not.
Any time you could just have a fern.
Although whenever we walk on here, I do think that I must be slightly psychotic for running around here
Yes,
because it's so treacherous.
I do think that, Ash. I do think
I'm
it.
like, oh, because, well, you stop looking.
There's even an Ilkley Moor fell race, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
I mean, you'd think from the name, you'd know to avoid it, but
Yeah,
you've
well,
done it, haven't you?
Yeah. There's also...
Did you fall
No.
in the fell race?
No. There's also the Ilkley Incline. No, I nearly fell then. Which is a 1 mile race from the bottom of Keighley Road up to, well, basically up to the centre of the moor. But it's...
The gate?
Yeah. But it's an extremely painful experience. But fun. In that strange way.
Yes, painful experience, but fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the way that only excruciating pain can do.
Yeah. So that's a good one as well. Although when I did it last year, I got the apparently I was very excited to sign up for it because I got the race number 2, and I was like, I would like to set expectations now that this probably won't be the final placing.
Yeah. No, it was 3 or 4.
Yeah. Well,
How many people did they get to do such an insane thing?
I think there was about 100.
100. Well, I suppose as a proportion of the society, it's
Yeah.
comfortingly low. No, I mean, massive respect to people who can do that.
Well,
I'm not among them.
it's a question of where you decide to spend your focus, isn't it? It's like I might run.
Wireless microphones.
Yeah, exactly. So I might run 7 or 8 hours a week, but that means that time is not spent doing something else. I could learn a new language, or
You could do that and run at the same time.
that's true actually. Maybe that was a bad example.
Like
or
walking and
I could learn carpentry. I don't know how I would do those two at the same
no,
time.
that would be challenging.
Creating like interlocking joints while running
Yes,
with chisels.
you'd be good at it if you could do
Chisels and
that.
things.
Doing it standing still would become a cinch.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're going for a walk and podcasting, aren't we?
Well,
So
yeah, true.
apparently you can do that.
Yeah. Maybe we should make it a live broadcast.
You mean stream the audio?
Streamed audio as it happens. Maybe that would be too much.
I don't know. It might be quite interesting. I'm not
You know
sure
what?
anyone would listen to it.
Well, maybe.
Maybe they would.
Well, you know what we were talking about the other day when I was in Brighton? So we
Yeah.
were talking about how like massive meetups used to be.
They did.
And we were talking about the Liverpool, was it Tester Gathering?
The Liverpool Tester Gathering was a monumental
And
affair.
how like enormous, like for,
I remember
an evening event that was.
being invited by Lee to talk about it.
Yeah,
To talk at it, I mean,
talk
not
at
about
it,
it.
not about it.
I mean, I talked about it after I'd talked at it, because I was very impressed by the scale of it.
Yeah. So, but, and now, like obviously after the pandemic, the whole world has changed in terms of that type of event and many other things. But trying to gather that, trying to build up those events again, or will they ever,
Yes.
can they ever come back in the same way? Because for the Ministry of Testing, you've got the Athens meetup. I think that is bigger than the Liverpool one was.
Right.
It's they still get like well over 100 people per event.
Wow.
But it's maintained post-pandemic, it came back and it was still as strong. So I have like theories, because they say it's the same with the Atelier as well. Because there's multiple organisers, it's easier to get it's easier to get the events sort of on rather than relying on 2 or 3 people. So I think there's definitely like a dynamic there where if you've got loads of people helping you organise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where are we going now, Ash?
So once round the town.
Apparently we're going once round the town.
Otherwise, the world will end, won't it?
We're now heading away from Friends of Ham.
But the world will end if we don't go once round the town.
Serious issue with the route has developed. However, this is pretty easy to walk on compared with the steps we just came down. So
Yeah. Maybe we should get a GPX of the route as well.
well, we can, can't we? Because we have you been recording the entire thing on your
No, I haven't.
Garmin? I've recorded a fair bit of it, but I started it when we were walking up Grove Road. It said, "You seem to be going for a walk," which might mean that it backfills the route that I came, or might not.
They're quite smart like that sometimes.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, I am. I should record that,
Yeah. So if we can have the GPX, that would be kind of cool.
or at least a picture of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, this is another thing.
Hey, here's an app idea for podcasters. You have an audio recorder that attaches timestamps to all the places you go to, and then
right, okay.
people can watch a video of it
Yeah.
where you inch around the map.
Free. Split pace. 29 minutes.
Well, we haven't slowed down.
No? Consistency, that's what it's all about. So, it's a collection of ducks, moorhens, and other things in the town.
I
I'm
think
sure.
there's more ducks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right. So I won't force Ian to walk up to the cow and calf now.
Because it's probably not possible to force me to do that.
There is no coercion.
My legs will be... there was a time when I went for long walks every day, and I've stopped doing it. And that's very poor, really. But it means that this was rather more of a thing
Yeah,
for my level of exercise than probably previously would have been.
yeah. But, you know, life does change in unexpected ways, which mean that you
Life
know,
happens.
whatever old habits that you've accumulated sometimes have to fall by the wayside a little.
I mean, during the pandemic, I, and I guess quite a few other people who are in a sort of more privileged position of, it was possible to, you know, to work at home and to be productive, but also you could go for these amazing summer walks in beautiful locations where there was no pollution because all the traffic had stopped, and it was just this amazing experience.
The world looked like it was in high definition again.
And that was amazing.
Last chance, Ian. Just going past the sign for the cow
We
and
are
calf
going
rocks.
past the sign for the cow and calf rocks, and
We've gone past it.
we've gone past it. Oh dear.
We can go that way as well, to be fair.
We could, but let's keep going and then go to Friends of Ham, where we can partake of a cold drink, I'm going to say. Should we keep recording when we get there? Or that's the question.
Well, guess we can leave it on.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna if
that's
it's
what I
out,
mean.
it's gonna keep going, isn't it? So yeah, we can do for me.
And then we can go back to base and have a bit of a listen.
Bit of a listen. See
And
how it's all
realise
turned
that
out.
my cable came unplugged 3/4 of an hour ago,
Yeah.
and we've
Hiya.
hi, and all is lost.
All is lost.
Or,
Again,
or rather, it's just a monologue from you.
it's just me. As long as it's me.
Yes, that'll be all right. And then we'll realise that actually that's why we're supposed to use the thing that screws the microphone
Yeah.
wire into the.
Yeah. That duck was eating seeds. It's good to see. You don't feed them bread.
I must admit, I have no bread to feed them.
No. If you just feed them bread, it's just like You just feed them, it's like just feeding a human chips all the time. I mean, I know some humans do exist on chips.
Yeah.
Exclusively chips
And
based.
chips are a fine addition to any diet.
Yeah. So he chucked some bread in, but it was just a big lump.
A big rock of bread.
So the ducks are like, you're all right.
I'm fine for that. Wait for it to get soggy and then I'll peck at it a bit.
Yeah. It'll just go to the bottom of the tarn.
Yeah.
Forever. So the circuit of the tarn is nearly complete. Yeah. Well, you know, short CVs aren't such a bad thing. I've seen far too many too long ones.
They go along with youth, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I don't know, I'm quite
Something
like...
which I coveted less at the time when I was going through it,
Yeah.
and a bit more now.
Well...
It's a pity youth can't be combined with experience.
Yeah. We might actually start to solve some problems then.
Yes.
Yeah, that won't do. I'm quite the stickler with the CVs. They've got to be like 2 pages. I don't care how long you've been around. It's literally a summary.
Yeah.
So if you can't summarise something...
Well, ChatGPT can do it for you.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, you know...
Dear ChatGPT, please take my 12-page CV and make it into 2 pages.
Yeah. Someone on a CV the other day had put they had 3.3 years experience of something. 3.3? What?
Why don't they just say they had, you know, 17,312 hours experience?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, oh, now I have to work it out.
Yeah. Is that being used as a shorthand for months?
Maybe, I don't
Which
know.
would make it 3 months?
Yeah.
Or is it a third of a year, which would make it 4 months?
I don't know. I was just like, oh no, this has just got more
Don't
complex.
make me do sums.
Don't make me think about this.
It's like those things you always used to hear about, oh, you know, hiring managers will take one look at your CV for 3 seconds, and if they don't like it, then they're immediately going to put it in the bin.
Yeah.
And I think we can add to that, or if it makes them have to do mental arithmetic.
Well, I think the days of hiring managers looking at CVs are numbered anyway, aren't they?
Well, I think it's funny, isn't it? I think
It's now AI versus AI.
yes, that world is just AIs howling at each other. I'll use ChatGPT to write my CV, and then you can use ChatGPT to reject it. Although, actually, you can use ChatGPT to fail to reject it. Because someone put in a job description and said, "Dear ChatGPT, write a perfect CV for someone of this age that would be a perfect fit for this job description, just so that I can see what that would look like." I'm the hiring manager, honest.
I did use Claude for my, I updated my CV, but I wrote it and then said to Claude, can you make this less repetitive?
Please review this.
Yeah. And, you know, and a bit better. And to be fair, Claude did exactly that.
I like Claude. I mostly use Claude now. Are you paying out for Claude?
No.
See, I am. So now Claude has this thing called projects.
Right.
And what it means is basically you can attach a bunch of files to the project, and then it knows about the things in the file when you're talking to it. Which is a bit like GPTs that ChatGPT lets you do, but more simple and focused.
It's got an Android app now as well, Claude.
It does. Although I scarcely see why that's relevant.
I don't see anyone using that.
Yeah, there's no money in that.
Well, there isn't, but not if the App Store laws are to be believed.
Yes. Is that L-O-R-E or L-A-W?
Both.
We're walking past a bank of yellow flowers with white flowers intermingled in them. And those kind of white blossoms that as a child, if you press them near the base, they pop out in an interesting way. But if I were to do that now, I'd feel like I was engaging in vandalism, so I won't. But the childish part of me would still quite like to do it in some childish way. So we're at the end of the moor.
End of the moor.
There's no more moor.
There's no more. Back
Right.
up to the White Wells.
No more up to anything.
No more up to anything.
We're only going down now. We're going down.
To be fair, I did run 12 kilometres this morning as well. So,
Yeah, and to be fair, I did get up this morning.
well,
Walked to work.
yeah. Did you get up for the Australian stand-up?
No, that was yesterday morning.
Oh, good.
I'm sitting at work at 6 o'clock thinking, I feel very tired. Why do I feel so tired? It was, I got here 10.5 hours ago. That explains it.
I've been here for many days.
Yeah. What? It'd be great if this has worked.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see why not. I don't see why not. Surely in the long chain of dependencies, everything would have gone fine.
Yes.
That's the way that you should.
Nothing can ever go wrong.
Nothing can ever go wrong. There is no evidence that anything has gone wrong because I haven't looked.
Yeah, you've been very careful to make
Well,
sure
that's the joy of testing,
we've
right?
found no evidence of such.
See, CrowdStrike didn't know, did they? Because they didn't look.
They did not.
Exactly. So they were like, "What another great release."
Did they?
High fives all round.
Did they even run it?
Did they even run it? Well, it ran fine on Linux and Mac. It ran fine. See? And on Windows, whatever came after Windows 10, I don't even know anymore.
I particularly enjoyed the fix. All you have to do is go to your data center with all these unattended servers in it, and then boot them in safe mode, and then
Remove the file.
remove the
Put it down.
file, and then boot them up again.
I mean, they'll be fine then.
And then they'll be in some position where now you have to reinstall something.
Just do that tens of thousands of times. It's fine.
Yes, there's no.
Manually, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe if they got 10,000 people, they could each go and do it once.
See, if we would have all just chipped in,
Yeah,
you know,
many
would-
hands make light work.
it would have all been over very, very quickly. No fuss.
No muss.
No muss, no fuss.
As Americans would say to us. I think I'm going to cross over the road.
Okay.
Because it makes me feel marginally closer to Friends of Ham. Arriving at which is now become a major fixation in my head.
I would have carried on,
Regardless.
regardless. I could have gone to the Cow and Calf, but I would have gone alone.
Do you reckon all the batteries and all these things have lasted an hour and a half?
I don't know, maybe. Well, this is the point of the test. Test our configuration,
Yep.
soak test.
It hasn't rained, so we haven't managed to do that. In fact, I'm quite relieved it hasn't rained because I'm not sure that I would have been prepared to do that,
Well, yeah.
that type of test.
Yeah. I enjoy going onto the software testing Reddit, subreddit, and people just come up with like the wildest ideas.
Software gore subreddit.
Yeah, it is like, and so there was someone who'd written a JMeter performance test for a form that was 10 steps long.
Ah,
Did you get a bug?
I got buzzed by a bee, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So I always find it really interesting. If someone said, "Ash, can you performance test this 10-step form?" Be like, well, I'll tell you what, should we just performance test like the thing that gets submitted at the end of it?
Yes.
Right, because that's the thing that probably needs to perform well. And then we'll just like test the rest of the form, you know, and maybe say, write some automation, put like a lighthouse check for each of the pages, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Rather than writing a JMeter test which goes through all of the steps of the form, probably fails before it submits it, and then you don't get to find out about the thing that you actually need to test.
Yes, you're not really testing the performance of the...
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if I'm just like a jerk who just like, you know, sees people coming up with these wild solutions for testing and then just immediately thinks, well, yeah, you could do that. But
Well, no, I don't. But the thing is that coming up with that is not the mark of a jerk. I mean, you could express it in a way that would make you a
absolutely.
jerk.
I could be like, well, you're the stupidest person alive.
Yes, yeah. I thought this last one from last week was the stupidest person alive, but it turns out it's you.
You know what this test proves? You're the stupidest person alive.
Yes.
So I won't say that.
Don't say that.
Don't say that.
So, but coming up with things is
Yeah.
jerk neutral.
So the question at Friends of Family
Oh.
is sit out the front
Look
or
at
sit out the
this.
back. It's just a lot
I
of
wouldn't mind sitting inside.
inside.
Yes, there's a few insects.
It's a bold strategy.
I am quite bold. Also, I'm feeling as though it might rain.
Okay. Yeah, we can go inside.
Being inside would be a good.
No bother.
So I think, rather than recording in there, I think that's the best thing now would be to turn it off, quit while we're ahead, assuming that we are, and then see what we've got,
Yeah. Okay.
if anything.
Plus, I need to go to the toilet.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
as hilarious as it is to record, going
Do
to the
not
toilet.
record that. It is there are drops of water falling from the sky now, aren't there?
Hello, Colin. You all right?
God almighty.